Our next guest now is a civil and environmental engineering and earth sciences professor whose nuclear forensic research was featured recently in the university's What Would You Fight For series, which you may have seen on NBC. Please welcome to the program Professor Antonio Simonetti. And welcome to Notre Dame Day. It's a pleasure to have you here. First off, for the benefit of the sportscaster in the room, what is nuclear forensics?
Well, essentially, nuclear forensics is the technical investigation of nuclear materials so as to determine fingerprints or signatures, chemical signatures of nuclear materials. These nuclear materials can be materials that are intercepted by illicit trafficking at border crossings, or they could be materials that are in nuclear power plants that are being enriched for the production of fuel pellets that are used in the production of nuclear energy.
Okay.
So the forensics essentially were the CSI people of the nuclear world. We're trying to determine the origin of the material should the material be intercepted, which is referred to as pre-detonation nuclear forensics. And God forbid if nuclear materials were included in a bomb, that's referred to as post-detonation nuclear forensics. So in the post-detonation side of things, we're trying to look for the fuel signature in the blast material.
Wow, this is really important global work. I know you were recently awarded a very large grant by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, almost $2 million. Tell me a little bit more about your research and how it specifically relates to Homeland Security.
Right. So the grant, the focus or the goals of the grant are threefold. One is to characterize as much of the raw material, the uranium ore that's used in the production facilities for nuclear energy. So looking at the mineral uraninite, which is a uranium oxide mineral. So characterizing as many of the deposits that contain uraninite worldwide so that we have a baseline signature to then cross-relate any fingerprints that we get from illicit material that's intercepted. The second goal is to train the next future generation of nuclear forensic scientists. There is a bit of a shortage in the national lab scene of nuclear forensic sciences. There's an aging going on, and so it's important to have a new generation to take over this very important role. And the third is to try to augment the base of information, the database of information that researchers can go on to fingerprint any illicit material that's intercepted.
And those are the things you're doing every day in the classroom,
right.
Building the future leaders in this. What would you say is the biggest challenge you face in your line of work?
The biggest challenge, I think, is really getting to work on the very interesting samples, the classified samples. So samples, right now, samples that are intercepted are sent immediately to the national labs. There's experts there that can fingerprint the source of the intercepted material. So as a professor and leading a research group, it's very difficult, impossible actually, to work on classified material. We just don't have the clearance for that.
Sure, fair enough. We mentioned earlier, before I let you go, I want to ask you this. Your work was profiled in the What Would You Fight For spot. What was it like for you just to have that research profiled on a national level?
It was great. I was very happy for my research group. They're a hard-working bunch of students and postdocs, very dedicated, professional. We were very emotional. Our family members got to watch it, and for me in particular, my parents got to watch it all the way in Montreal, so in Quebec, and it was a very emotional time for us, seeing their son on TV. So performing this really important work. So it was great. The whole group. I was happy for my group. Their work was profiled at a national level, and I was happy to see that.
That's very cool, and we were happy to have you here, Antonio. Appreciate the time.
Okay, thank you
very much. Thanks for taking a few minutes.
Yep.
Again, fascinating work, also very timely, so we appreciate what you're doing.